The history of animal shelters in Pensacola and my hope of restoring a really cool animal fountain to its former glory. Hi, I'm Pensacola historian Joe Vinson, and this handsome older gentleman sitting next to me is Williff. He is a rescue dog that we adopted 16 years ago this month, which by our best guess makes him 17 years old. That's pretty impressive, old man. So, in his honor, I thought I would talk about the history of pet adoption, the Pensacola Humane Society, and the Escambia County Animal Shelter. I almost didn't make this video because the story involves a lot of animal euthanasia and other unpleasant things that I figure most people don't want to hear about. I'm going to try to keep this a mostly no bummers zone, but suffice it to say, if you are able to, please consider adopting a dog or cat, or multiple, and spay or neuter your pets. For feral cats in your neighborhood, you might consider what's called trap, neuter, return, or TNR. We did that for this mama cat after we found her litter of kittens in our garage 13 years ago. And while she wasn't very happy about it at the time, she hasn't held a grudge and still hangs out on our porch to get food. Now, on to the history. First thing you should know is what we now think of as pet ownership is a fairly recent phenomenon. Yes, humans have domesticated animals for tens of thousands of years, but usually for a work purpose, like hunting or transporting or for food. Owning dogs or other animals just as companions was mostly a luxury for the elite. Most villages had animal pounds to keep stray livestock until they were claimed by their owners. In the 1800s, organizations like RSPCA and ASPCA were founded to prevent cruelty to workhorses and donkeys and other animals used for scientific experiments or for sport. Around the same time, learning to care for animals took on a moral value in Victorian society. Dog ownership became more common, which meant a lot more puppies. The excess, uncared for dogs could cause problems like attacking people or livestock, and cities started to hire dog catchers to round them up. In urban areas, the animal pounds became almost exclusively dog pounds. In Pensacola, a humane society was first organized in 1885, a year before the city passed its first dog ordinance. The society clearly had trouble staying together, as newspapers reported on efforts to reorganize it again in 1895, 1905, 1907, 1914, and 1916. When it was active, it was concerned not only with the welfare of animals, like underfed horses or mistreated mockingbirds, but also of children, partnering with the Pearl Egan Orphanage. This was during the Progressive Era, when Americans were becoming more aware of widespread social issues, but before government agencies were created to address them. It was also during this time that Pensacola received a granite fountain from the New York-based National Humane Alliance. That organization was founded in 1897 by advertising executive and animal lover Herman Lee Ensign, who died 2 years later. In his will, he offered these animal fountains to any city that would dedicate a space and pledge upkeep for them. Pensacola Mayor C.C. Goodman requested the fountain in 1907, and it was received in 1909 and placed on Garden Street just east of Palafox. The main basin for horses was 6 feet in diameter and fed by bronze, lion-shaped spouts, and there were 4 smaller bowls at the base meant for dogs. More on the fountain in a little bit. After decades with no local SPCA, a movement grew to reestablish a Pensacola Humane Society or other animal shelter, which happened in late 1942. Their first building was a former Malaria Control Center building on South DeVillers Street next to the sewage plant. The city of Pensacola contracted them to enforce an ordinance requiring dogs and cats to wear tags. After some local cases of rabies, the ordinance was expanded to include mandatory inoculation. In 1949, a new headquarters was constructed on West Garden Street by the railroad viaduct. Despite taking in hundreds of animals each month, only a fraction were reunited with owners or rehomed. Humane Society officials made radio appearances to explain why the ordinance was important, and also to give guidelines for proper pet care. The city's dog ordinance was well received, but it only applied within city limits, and the Humane Society wasn't authorized to pick up stray dogs in unincorporated areas. After first considering a partnership with the city, Escambia County decided in 1956 to build its own dog pound on North H Street. When it opened as the Escambia County Animal Shelter, later moving to L Street, it caused some tension with the Humane Society, which also called its facility the Animal Shelter. The Humane Society hoped to contract with the county as it did with the city, but a man named U.S. Dopey Andrews, yes, that was his name, held that contract until his death in 1966. After that, the county health department partnered with the Northwest Florida Veterinary Medical Society to run the shelter. The county approved a comprehensive animal control ordinance in 1971. The county animal shelter moved to an adjacent spot in 1974, and the Humane Society expanded its facilities in 1978 and 1979. Even though both shelters were growing, the need still far outpaced the capacity. To try to reduce how many dogs and cats were, there were campaigns to promote spaying and neutering, and coloring books and puppet shows promoted pet adoption to kids. There were adoption drives on television and special tie-ins around Be Kind to Animals Week. The Humane Society's animal control contract with the city ended in 1981, and it became a no-kill shelter in 1985. Historically sustained by memberships and donations, and at times in danger of shutting down, the Humane Society has found creative ways of supplementing revenue. There was a thrift store on Gulf Beach Highway, proceeds of which benefited the organization. In the 80s and 90s, there was a music-themed event called the Animal Jam, and a Christmas event called Santa Paws. Doggy bathe-ins are a long-standing fundraiser. And more recently, Barktoberfest and the Fur Ball have been popular annual events. Escambia County opened a new animal shelter building on Fairfield Drive in 1997. It's named after W.A. Buck Lee, a former county commissioner who pushed to fund its construction. There's a lot more to say about both shelters, but I'm mindful that this video is already very long, so let me wrap up by looping back to the Humane Alliance fountain. Over the years, it lost a lot of its metalwork, the lion spigots and the ornaments on the top. It's been moved a few times, most recently in 1978 to be a part of what was called Sanger Plaza next to the old Palafox post office. Retrofitted to shoot water from the top, it became a centerpiece of a recessed water feature that operated for decades. A few years back, for some reason that I really struggle to understand, they bricked over the recessed pond like it was a cask of Amontillado, and the fountain has been cut off at the proverbial torso ever since. The city had plans to relocate it back to Garden Street as part of the new Palafox work, but that section had to be postponed due to budget limitations. I really hope it's just sand under those bricks and that the fountain can eventually be restored to its original height and maybe even get those lower dog bowls operational. I hope you enjoyed this history about something that is near and dear to many of us. As Bob Barker often reminded people, help control the pet population, have your pets spayed or neutered. And let me know in the comments what topic I should cover next. Say bye, Williff. He can't hear me.